Hello! My group and I chose to do our project on the business Caterpillar Tractor Company. We chose Caterpillar because it's a company deeply rooted within our hometown of Peoria, and their business has a great impact on the economy globally, nationally, and even locally for us. So I'm going to take you through the mindset of someone working for Caterpillar. We've set up both an interview with an intern from Caterpillar and also a full-time employee from Caterpillar. And after we go over that, Kyle is going to take you through a new and game-changing business plan that CAT has started, that they're already undergoing. But before we get into that, let's first talk about a brief history of Caterpillar. Okay. Caterpillar Tractor Company, nicknamed CAT, is a corporation that engineers, manufactures, and sells a multitude of machinery. I'm sure you're all familiar with CAT since the company is a crucial part of our hometown, Peoria's local economy. But for background, we're going to briefly discuss CAT's history. Caterpillar Tractor Company was conceived via horizontal merger between the C.L. Best Tractor Company and Holt Manufacturing Company in 1925. Entrepreneur Benjamin Holt, founder of Holt Manufacturing Company, was originally from Stockton, California. His farmland in California had relatively soft soil, which would cause the tractors to sink into the earth. The supply shift factors, natural causes, and resource costs caused Holt to rethink the location and wonder what location would allow him to maximize profit. To avoid further high cost of production resources, Holt purchased a pre-existing empty manufacturing plant in East Peoria, Illinois, where the soil was coarse enough to hold his tractors. In terms of production resources, he now had more efficient capital, but still needed land and labor. These things were not hard to find in Peoria. Holt used wooden tracks bolted to chains for his tractors instead of wheels, which improved traction and mobility. This gave CAT a differentiated and more efficient product. People claimed the machine would crawl like caterpillars, ultimately coining the name Caterpillar Company. In the 1930s, CAT tractors were used for paramount projects such as the Golden Gate Bridge and the Hoover Dam. The tractors were also heavily used in both World War I and World War II. In the 1950s, CAT started expanding exponentially, acquiring businesses using vertical mergers and building new facilities nationally and globally. Caterpillar has markets in Germany, India, Australia, France, and China. In 2015, an $800 billion CAT company worldwide headquarters was scheduled to be built in downtown Peoria. However, in 2017, CAT eliminated these plans and announced that after 90 years of being housed in Peoria, the company would move to Chicago, Illinois. Today, CAT produces agricultural products, electronics, turbines, trucks, and of course, tractors. To the everyday consumer like you and me, these goods are capital, being used as intermediaries to build something else like a house or a playground. But to CAT, this is their whole business. CAT Tractor Company continues to be the dominant manufacturer of heavy industrial equipment in the world today. All right, so now we're going to conduct an interview with an intern from Caterpillar. This is Madison Cravens. Hi Madison, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Julia. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
So let's talk about your role at CAT.
Okay, so I'm a student intern under a design team. My role is I work a lot with visualization tools and with data mining, so going through data sets. I also am in charge of learning a lot of the ins and outs of Microsoft applications or different sources within Caterpillar and reporting back to the team, quick tips and easy ways to utilize all those applications.
Very cool. So what kind of market structure does Caterpillar have?
So for the mining industry, we're an oligopoly market structure, and for agriculture and recreational lawn equipment, we're more of a monopolistic competition market structure.
Okay, so for mining, you only have a few competitors, and then for recreational, you have multiple competitors.
Yep.
All right. So what other companies make substitutes for the products that CAT makes?
Mainly our two big competitors would be Komatsu and John Deere, which are probably a couple other names that you've heard. They're pretty big, and they make a lot of the same equipment that we do.
Okay, so even with these substitutes, how's your company doing? What revenue have they brought in this past year?
So in 2017, Caterpillar's sales and revenue was at $9.822 billion.
Wow.
And so that went up since 2016, so we're doing well. We're increasing.
Sounds awesome. So what are CAT's employee statistics like right now?
So we short term are fluctuating between 90 and 100,000, but long term I think we'll see a steady increase in the amount of employees that we have.
Well, I sure hope so, and I know on behalf of Peoria, we all hope so.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks so much for your time, Madison.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
So now we're going to talk with a full-time CAT employee. This is Dan Lehman. Thanks so much for coming, Dan.
Thanks for having me, Julia.
Yeah, of course. So can you please explain to us what your role is at CAT?
So currently I work in the global purchasing organization as a buyer for our supply base.
Okay, nice. So how is it that you interact with dealers and suppliers?
Okay, so primarily what I do is negotiate prices with our supply base, as well as ensuring that they're meeting our quality and delivery expectations. Additionally, I do provide some forecast visibility so they can plan accordingly.
Okay, nice. Approximately how many suppliers does CAT have?
So we're approximately 600 suppliers right now. That number does tend to fluctuate depending on the economy.
Nice. So how does a decrease in demand affect the supply base at CAT?
Okay, so when we experience a decrease in demand from a purchasing perspective, we typically have more favorable price structures from our supply base, lower prices, the number of suppliers that we have available, the capacity that our supply base has available increases as well. But one of the downsides that having long periods of decreased demand is you have to understand that most of our supply base is not as diversified as Caterpillar. They strictly focus on niche markets. So when we have long periods of downturn or low demand, they may find themselves in some financial viability issues that could ultimately lead to bankruptcy. So our supply base could decrease in that aspect.
Right. So in contrast to that, how does an increase in demand affect your guys' supply base?
So an increase in demand from a purchasing perspective, we typically see higher costs for material, and the overall supply base or our capacity for suppliers is decreased as well. The overall capacity is decreasing. Everybody's looking for the same quantity. So one of the things that we see quite a bit when we see how Caterpillar has been with the constant increase and decrease in demand is a phenomenon that we refer to as the bullwhip effect. So with the long lead time items such as steel castings and steel in general, by the time the suppliers order the material and the material comes in, our demand is back down. And then our demand increases again, and they have to reorder this raw material. By the time they get it back in again, the demand is down. So we see this cyclical cycle where the increase and decrease in demand is going so rapidly, our supply base is having a hard time keeping up, thus the bullwhip effect.
Right, that makes sense. It's a fitting name.
Right.
So overall, as a company, how has Caterpillar changed in the past about 5 years?
So from what I've seen in the past 5 years, especially from a purchasing perspective, is we go from make to buy. So traditionally, especially what you see in the Peoria area, there's a lot of manufacturing going on. We've got welding in-house, and we've also got machining in-house. But our suppliers continue to become more efficient, and their quality continues to increase. So what we see is that it's more cost-effective for us to purchase the material directly from our supply base, purchase finished, which is where we get that term.
Right. So
one other thing that we've seen is obviously with the change in the past 5 years is our move to Chicago. So Caterpillar has always been, for the past 70 years, has been headquartered in Peoria. But as again we see the marketplace changing, we needed to take certain corrective actions, and one of them was moving the headquarters to Chicago.
Right. Yeah. So what is the current state of suppliers and dealers and their work environment?
I would say as far as the current environment, one of the commodities that comes to mind right away is steel castings. So you have to understand when it comes to steel castings, we're mining this iron ore, and there's only a set amount of iron ore that we can get for those steel castings. But as our demand continues to increase, and when it comes to the construction industry and mining industry, we understand our competitors have an increase in demand as well. What we see is that the overall supply for the iron ore is everybody's trying to get in on it. So one of the things that Caterpillar, that purchasing, has tried to do when we look at the demand versus supply is looking for alternate ways to make some of our components. So traditionally, Caterpillar equipment has been steel, but with some of the breakthroughs that we see in plastic and the hardness of the plastic, in some instances we can actually switch to plastic where we have a much greater supply.
For a cheaper price.
For a cheaper
Sure.
price, that's right.
Right,
And
so
even
I
light,
think
and even the weight, lighter weight, so our
Yeah,
customers are
yeah.
spending less for fuel.
Yeah, definitely. So CAT as a company, is it more elastic or more inelastic?
I would say that's very dependent on the economy itself. So when mining is going well, or we had the housing boom several years back, the demand for our equipment was very high, and we were very inelastic at that point. At any price point we put in, we could not make the tractors or the mining equipment fast enough. But the downside of that is when the economy takes a turn, traditionally we feel that impact as well, and we become very elastic. We definitely have to lower our prices to try to exhaust some of the inventory that we pulled in.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Dan.
Thanks for having
Have a
me,
great rest
Julie.
of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Workforce. A big city has more workers than a small city or town. The workforce may have more varied skills as well. In addition, a big city has a variety of levels of housing, from extremely affordable to extremely pricey. The variety means employees from the lowest line staffer to vice presidents will find accommodations that are comfortable and that they can afford. Transportation. Public transportation means it's easier and less costly for employees to get to work. If travel is on the business agenda, a large city will have at least one airport with direct flights to most cities. Infrastructure includes intangibles as well, such as business networks, professional organizations, and small business development centers. Diverse customer base. Cities often have a diverse cultural base. Businesses that target a certain segment of customers will do better in a big city that has a larger population of that segment. Businesses that offer a service or produce a narrow niche will find more customers in that niche and a larger population. Entertainment, theater, and arts. While it may seem that you work 24/7, there is downtime in the evenings and on the weekends. Small cities may have one or two live theater groups, while a big city will have several mainstream theaters and a number of off-the-beaten-path theater groups. The opera, ballet, and other dance performances and the symphony are found in most large cities. In addition, there are sporting events, professional sports team, and amateur sports. Not only will employees be able to take advantage of these options, but important clients who are in town on business may enjoy a night out as well. Professional network. Accountants, attorneys, and advisors provide assistance to your business. A big city has a greater number and diversity of services to choose from. For example, in a small town, attorneys may be well versed in contract law, but not in intellectual property contract law. If your business is a publishing company, you need an attorney who knows publishing and intellectual property inside and out. Financing options. Financing includes debt, venture capital, and private investors. A big city is more likely to have a greater choice of any of those three options. Most investors prefer to invest in companies that are in the same geographic area or within the same short plane ride. Your company will still have to meet the requirements of the lender or investor in any case. Some cities such as Boston and San Jose are known to be hotbeds for venture capital investors. Others like Dallas and San Diego have a number of angel or private investors.
Caterpillar Tractor Company will always be held near and dear to the hearts of Peorians because CAT employs a vast number of Peoria and its surrounding citizens. Knowing what makes CAT's economy work gives us an introspective look into how the company has influenced our city and how our city has grown.
I am Cat Strong.
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 We are Cat Strong.